Seltzer is now live in over 2,500 locations across the United States. We're now available in Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, Idaho, Illinois, Michigan, Montana, Oregon, and Texas. Go to hardafseltzer.com today, click on the store locator, enter your city or zip, and find the nearest location closest to you. Welcome to Drinkin Bros, presented by GhostBed.com. Yeah, welcome to Drinkin Bros, kids. A big win by Donald Trump last night, and right now it is official. We're going to cut live to Kamala Harris's concession speech. She just walked out right now. Couldn't do that last night. Bob, patch that in, please.
So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support. To Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, over the 107 days of this campaign. We have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. Now, I know folks are feeling and experiencing a range of emotions right now. I get it. But we must accept the results of this election. Earlier today, I spoke with President-elect Trump and congratulated him on his victory. I also told him that we will help him and his team with their transition.
I don't think you need your help,
and that we will engage in a peaceful transfer of power. A fundamental principle of American democracy is that when we lose an election, we accept the results. That principle, as much as any other, distinguishes democracy from monarchy or tyranny, and anyone who seeks the public trust must honor it. At the same time, in our nation, we owe loyalty not to a president or a party, but to the Constitution of the United States.
Where was that?
And loyalty to our conscience and to our God. My allegiance to all three is why I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up. I will never give up the fight for a future where Americans can pursue their dreams, ambitions, and aspirations, where the women of America have the freedom to make decisions about their own body and not have their government telling them what to do. We will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will never give up the fight for our democracy, for the rule of law, for equal justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. And we will continue to wage this fight in the voting booth, in the courts, and in the public square. And we will also wage it in quieter ways, in how we live our lives, by treating one another with kindness and respect, by looking in the face of a stranger and seeing a neighbor, by always using our strength to lift people up, to fight for the dignity that all people deserve. The fight for our freedom will take hard work, but like I always say, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And the fight for our country is always worth it. It is always worth it. To the young people who are watching, it is... I love you. To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed. But please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Right, don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before. You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. people who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice, to fight for themselves, to fight for others. So let their courage be our inspiration. Let their determination be our charge. And I'll close with this. There's an adage an historian once called a law of history, true of every society across the ages. The adage is,
shut the fuck up.
Only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
Oh, man.
I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time.
Just a fucking mom.
But for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service. H.U. And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
And bye forever.
Yeah, that was
You dumb
10
bitch.
minutes. 10 minutes.
That's about her limit.
But that's the entire campaign right
Sure,
there.
yeah.
That was probably her best speech.
It
Well, yeah,
was.
I mean, like, it's no surprise at all that her most coherent speech ever was a concession speech, because as we all know, she does her best work on her fucking knees.
Yeah, yeah. And then we've got breaking news here. The DOJ and Jack Smith have immediately ended all of their cases against Donald Trump. The DOJ cited their policies that presidents can't be prosecuted. However, it was assumed they would work up until the last day. So what's interesting here is the DOJ is moving to end them even before he takes office. So
Yeah,
they're
because
not gonna go.
some of them want to keep their fucking jobs.
Well, Jack Smith's not going to keep
No,
his fucking job.
he's going to be at the bottom of the ocean somewhere. But some people want to keep their jobs at the DOJ. But let me tell you, members of the DOJ, nothing's going to save you.
No.
You're fucked. You're all going to be out of jobs. And thank God.
Yeah. Thank God. And also thank you guys for watching last night's across all the platforms. We were ripped on various platforms, Twitch and some other things. You guys were sending it to us. Know that we don't care, by the way. The more the merrier. So wherever you guys sent out the feeds last night, it was awesome. And it was around 500,000 people and all that other stuff that were watching. Really, really, really want to thank Delco for last night's. I don't think you guys understand how hard it is to go live to the world like that and keep a consistent stream that not only looks great and sounds great. It is a very, very difficult job. And cheers to you, Delco. You did a fantastic job last night, for real.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Couple of road bumps early, but we got through it.
Yeah, but that's going to happen, man. I mean, look, we were sold out last night. It was packed. Everybody's boozing and all that other stuff. Like, there's a million cords. You got some lazy tech guys here and there working behind the scenes with you that you don't know, you've never met before. Very similar to Hollywood, and
then
you knocked
of course,
it out of the park.
Yeah, Jared fell off the back of the stage, of course.
Did. Is he
bobbed over.
alive?
No, he's dead.
I never saw him after.
I didn't either.
He scraped his leg.
I didn't
No,
see
he
him
was at
either.
the bar for until 1 a.m. I think.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's okay.
Yeah, he's fine. Yeah.
All right.
Then we
I
had a
didn't see him.
listener that was in the other day. I think his wife just ate it.
Yeah, I'm going to text Bob here. There was another listener. who
the one that kept trying to hug Gary, or sorry, Joel.
Bob, I texted it to you if you want to pop it up on screen. He could be dead. I'm not really sure. We'll see what happens there. Those 8% will really sneak up on you here. Man, what an evening last night. If you want to post that guy. Was he in a ditch, it looks like, in that
Oh, I didn't see this one. Which one's this?
Yeah, that just got sent to me.
I mean, is it a video?
It appears he's on the sidewalk.
Or just a screenshot?
Out. I thought a screenshot would
Can you
be
blow that up,
fine
Bob? I
there.
can't see who this is.
Zoom in. Do we know who that is?
Dox this man.
I mean, he's got... No, it's not Gary.
No, it's not Gary's bald.
Oh, yeah. No,
Gary's
I'm talking
out
about
there,
on the ground, yeah.
So I do have confirmation, though. We asked Coop, and he said he pissed this man's pants.
Wait, he pissed inside this man's pants, or
Yeah,
this guy pissed his pants?
That's what Coop said.
Oh, okay, great.
I don't understand what that means. Explain.
Coop didn't piss his pants. He pissed this man's pants.
Oh, he pissed on this guy's pants. I like that. That was an old college move.
And I got arrested once, again in college, obviously, because you do stuff like this in college.
Sure.
For breaking into a nursing home and shitting in all the diapers. They were fucking pissed.
Oh man, what a fucking night last night.
Yeah,
My
it was
God.
pretty good.
Yeah, we'll get into it in a second here. Just a quick reminder for the audience, we have passed the SEC audits. Obviously, everybody was drinking Hard AF seltzers last night. We have left 30% of the company open up to you guys, the listeners. We can only ask so much of you over the years here. We've been top 40 in the world for 9 consecutive years because of you guys. You might as well actually own the company. We took the model after the Green Bay Packers, to be honest with you. So go to wefunder.com/hardafseltzer. It is open. You receive shares from the SEC. You will have actual ownership in the company. Please join us with this because without you, we're getting pictures tagged, 12 packs tagged all over the nation. We just signed a 3-year deal with Penn State as well. That will be all in Pennsylvania starting in March of 2025 here. Yes, we're over 1.5 million. So we're going to leave 5 million open up to you guys and anyone else. Please join us, man, because the pictures help, man. Going to the stores helps. Going to these tailgates helps. And that's how we can sell this company, and hopefully we can all make money together because it is a small business. It is difficult out there, and we have done this for you guys. D'Anthony and I talked about it behind the scenes, and I've said this on a couple other shows before, but we can only ask so much out of you guys for buying T-shirts and everything else that it's like, hey, you might as well have actual ownership in the company that you support and with us. So go to wefunder.com/hardafseltzer now. It is open to everybody else, and we did pass the SEC audit, so we didn't blow the money on prostitutes or dumb shit. We hired the best of the best, got a new COO, hired 13 new employees. A lot of them are Drinkin' Bros listeners, so cheers to you guys. I'm going to crack one here today because I'm super hungover. Dan, let's recap last night. You and I both said it was going to be a blowout for Trump, and it was. You, in particular, and I'm going to give you your flowers today, said Trump will win presidents, win senates, and also win the House.
We'll see about the House. There's still technically a path that Democrats could tie or be up a seat, but it's unlikely, I think, at this point.
Okay.
But we'll see. And I also said he was going to win the popular vote, which is made some people some money, myself included.
Yes, and that is posted right now on Drinkin' Bros Sports on mybookie.com. I bet it because of you did. Like, you were the one who told me that. Again, I'm going to give you your flowers today. That paid off at 2-1.
It's just an observation. In any given year, this has been true for as long as these numbers have been tracked, the misery index, inflation plus the unemployment rate, the real unemployment rate, not the fake one. If it's over 13, the incumbent party never wins, right?
Yep.
And if it's over a certain level, the incumbent party loses everything, popular vote, usually all the chambers, right? And 2020 wasn't like that, I guess. Things were going really well. Economically, things were going really well. That's usually the best indicator, but the propaganda worked. It worked well, and they cheated. I mean, we're going to show you later in the show what I consider to be definitive proof that they cheated. But anyways, beyond all that, still hacking people's minds is very effective, right?
Yeah.
And it worked then, and it'll work again in the future. But there's something about Dave Smith said this maybe a week ago. Dave Smith said this, that the best thing to come from this election is that the legacy media, the corporate media, whatever you want to call it, is dead. Mm-hmm. They no longer have influence over most of America. It's podcasts, or people are actually going to do their own research. However they're finding information, it's not just from David Muir's lips to their ears any longer. That
Correct.
shit doesn't exist anymore. People don't give two fucks about anybody in Hollywood and what they have to say, and the returns show that. Things get really practical and pragmatic when you can't put food on your fucking table. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
That's just the way it is, man. And, that's the way it should be. Why would it not be that way? This is just Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you don't have food and shelter and heat situated, then everything else doesn't matter until you get that situated, right? That's just how it is. So.
Yeah. I agree. I think the biggest shock for me last night was the media. Same as you, where we were lied to for the last 90 days, 100 days, however long she got in there, that she was surging in the polls. She was up by 8. She was up by 10. This is the party of joy. There's been this big push. It is all over, all the way up until the show started last night. So behind the scenes, Dan, Christina, Bob, Jesse, and Jared, we all met in Dan's room to kind of discuss how we were going to start the show last night, how everything was going to go and everything else. And we turned on every network. So we had CNN on, flipped over to Fox, we flipped over to MSNBC. The interesting part about it was right and left, Fox included, said this was going to be very close, razor thin margins last night. This is going to come down to the wire. We don't know if we're going to know last night, blah, 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 over and over and over again. And yeah, none of us trust the media anymore. Like, it's, in my opinion, it is dead. And I'm saying Fox as well, because Fox reported the exact same thing that CNN did and MSNBC right before the election started last night. It was the same thing over and over and over again. And it wasn't close. The only thing that made it close last night was still the mainstream media, because they were trying to get ratings. Forgive me. We got fucked up last night. The ratings of trying to drag this election out when he was clearly up by so much in all of these states. You could have called this by 10:30 last night.
Yeah, I agree. Here's what you can trust. You can trust betting markets because there's actual dollars on the line. Nobody's just throwing money away in these betting markets. And you can trust registration numbers. These are two things I told you about 3 or 4 weeks ago that would be key indicators in this election. The betting market stayed pretty solid. They came down a little bit after that Hinchcliffe thing. It came down from like minus 250 to minus 155 for Trump, which is stupid.
Right.
There was no reason.
Right.
There was no reason to believe that would be a thing, but it happened. And then the registration numbers. I mean, Repubes dominated. They dominated registration. You got a lot of credit to Scott Pressler up in Pennsylvania. It's just funny, man. This kid, he's not even from Pennsylvania. I think he's from Arizona or some shit. Just decided, you know what? Fuck you. We're going to go win Pennsylvania. And he drove his ass up there and lived there for a year. Registered people to vote. Went into the Amish community and was like, hey, you see all this shit they're trying to do to you? You only got one option, and it's to fucking register to vote and come into town on that day and vote. And they did, and it made a difference.
Yeah. And then,
And then Elon, Rogan, those two guys especially. I don't know if we're sitting here having this conversation, as much as critical as I am about Elon and the way he does business overseas. I don't know if we're sitting here having this conversation without what he did with Twitter. Frankly,
well,
I mean, he spent $44 fucking billion to make sure that Americans had a place where they could go talk to each other without being censored.
Yeah,
there's not enough praise you can heap on the man for that.
And looking back on it, at least in our lifetime, I could say 2 men changed an entire election and got a president elected. I truly believe Elon Musk. was part of that with Donald Trump. And then in 2008, I know he just passed away 2 days ago. It really was Quincy Jones. Behind the scenes, he called everybody together and said, and Obama included, and he said, we're going to get the first black man elected as president of the United States. They had a private dinner at his house in Detroit with Oprah and all the most influential figures and said, how do we figure this out? And yeah, this was Elon's moment here. He was there last night at Mar-a-Lago, and now comes the meltdown, which, in my opinion, is hard. It's hard to see people melt down over this because it was such a blowout all the way around. Usually, you take an ass beating like this, and you're like, all right. If it was a college football team, we'd be like, well, our team's not very good this year, and we got to move on and figure out a better strategy. But that doesn't seem to be happening in the media right now. Bob, I just sent you a clip of The View. Let's play this in its entirety here because these motherfuckers, man, throughout this entire
it was pretty red
process.
last night.
I don't know. I'm profoundly disturbed. I think if you look at the New York Times this morning, the headline was America makes a perilous choice. I think that in 2016, we didn't know what we would get from a Trump administration, but we know now. And we know now that he will have almost unfettered power. And so I worry, not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class.
Because you're rich.
I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have.
For the audio listeners,
And
they're all
I
wearing
remember
black,
my
by the
father
way,
telling me
like it's a
many,
funeral.
many years ago that I was the first
And it was
person
planned.
in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass
Taking a
deportation
guess at
and
that
internment
before
camps,
anybody
and I'm
gets in
also
there is
worried about
crazy.
Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship. I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed-race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country.
Boy,
Well, I think it.
man, just can't misread things any more than she just did right there.
That being
Jesus
one of them.
Christ.
I'm
stupid
obviously very
bitch.
disappointed. I'm very sad. I
Did she
was
get hit
at
by
the
a
Kamala
car? What's going on with her
Harris,
face?
headquarters.
A lot of work done.
Yesterday in Washington, and it was
Don't
a
chase
very
black cars.
sad scene. The mood turned immediately, and. I tell you, there's a quote I get a lot of inspiration from, and it's a quote that I read when I was reading about John F. Kennedy, and it says, "Whether I am on the winning or the losing side is not the point with me. It is being on the side where my sympathies lie that matters." And that, to me, brought me a consolation and inspiration this morning, because I have no regrets.
Yep.
I worked hard as hell to elect the first Black Asian woman president.
What?
History slipped through
The
our fingers
fuck?
again.
What
I worked
is she
hard as
talking
hell
about?
for Donald Trump not to be president. But today, unlike Donald Trump and his followers, I acknowledge that he won. I hope for the best for our country, and I make a commitment to our LGBTQ, to our immigrants, to our elderly, to our young girls, to the women, that we will not stop fighting. We can be sad today.
Yeah.
Today we can be sad. Tomorrow.
Okay, so pause it there, and this is why I wanted to pull this clip up for you personally. Now, this will go back to what you said at the top of the show. Why are you positive now that 2020 the fix was in.
Bob, go to Twitter, your Twitter, and go to your DMs and open the link that I sent you.
Which one?
The one at the bottom there, obviously the latest one. Okay, put that on the screen. All right. This is from the what's called Blue Anon, or sometimes they call themselves Resistance Twitter.
Okay.
Which is like black. Like once Black Twitter became a thing, everybody wanted their own little.
Sure.
Oh, it's my corner of the internet, man. Like now it's a website. You fucking idiot. Anyways, so from they used to call them the Blue Check Brigade too, I think, or something like that. But anyways, this is all leftist people. Last night or this morning talking about the election. John Pavlovitz. How can we have had record turnout and 20 million fewer votes cast nationally? He's talking about versus 2020. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. All right. This is from Mueller. She wrote, big time leftist poster.
Yep.
I hope in the coming days someone is able to explain how we had record turnout but 18 million fewer votes than 2020. Both of these things can't be true. I agree with you.
Yep.
I agree with you.
Sure do.
Go to the next one. Dear POTUS, at POTUS, this is from Lorraine Ebanoff. Dear POTUS, there are 20 million votes, all caps, missing.
Mm-hmm.
Missing. No way there were 20 million fewer votes than 2020 with a massive 25 million surge in voter registration and record turnout. No way. All caps again. Go to the next one. It's pretty weird that a record voter turnout all over America, with a record voter turnout all over America, there were 18 million fewer votes cast than in 2020. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Same.
Now, click the X on that. Put it back up on screen. And X out of the picture, and then scroll down a little bit. Keep going a little bit farther, a little farther, a little farther. Right there. Without that. All right. Maybe some of you have seen this by now, this chart. Do you notice anything suspicious here?
Yeah, and for the audio listeners, can you tell them?
Yes. So what you're seeing are votes that don't exist, that did exist in 2020, and it was all because of mail-in voting. That's it. All these people you saw driving around harvesting ballots and shit, it is people, they went to nursing homes, they went to like the VA and VFW, they went to old folks communities and shit like that, and they fucking sat down with these people, and they filled out the ballots for them, had them sign them, and then they took them in. These votes don't exist. They're not people who would go vote, typically, people who are even of sound and rational mind. They made that shit up. That's where 18 to 20 million votes came from in 2020 that simply do not exist today. I've never been more sure that they stole that election in 2020 than I was last night when I started seeing the returns come in and confirming what I already knew about the registration numbers, the early voting numbers, and the betting markets. They fucking manufactured 15 to 20 million votes in 2020 to steal that goddamn election. And we need to launch the largest investigation in the history of this country to find out exactly who's responsible for it and put them on trial for treason and then execute them. There could be no tolerance. It's one thing to vote when you're a felon, cheat one time, like one person for one thing, or pick up some ballots and take them when you're not supposed to. Yeah, you get fined for that. Maybe you get a little jail time for it. When you rig an election like this, and especially considering in hindsight what it led to, which is fucking 15 million illegal immigrants invading this country, including 500 people on the goddamn terror watch list, 320,000 children are missing. When you crash the economy, when you create wars all over the fucking place, when you tear at the underbelly of the culture of this fucking country, created the best culture in the world. By the way, that's why every goddamn country on earth copies us. Every one of them. All the European economies copy us. Fucking Saudi Arabia copies us. Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, all these countries copy our economy. Even fucking China does. Because it's the best in the goddamn world. And they fucked it up. And they did it on purpose. People have got to die for this. Like the punishment for treason is death. I'm not saying that you as an individual should go out and target anybody. That's stupid. We need to investigate this and put these people through the proper legal processes, and then they need to die.
Well, as this is going on, because look, I share the same sentiments with you. We had Trump in 2020 get the most sitting votes of a U.S. president in the history of our country.
And he's going to get the same number of votes this year.
Correct. Where did all these extra votes come from?
They came from people who are fucking in hospice that never touched the paper themselves. And we saw video after video of this shit of people like, oh, are you sure that's who you want to vote for? Here, let me fill that out for you. That's all federal crime, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But somebody orchestrated it. And none of that, nothing ever happens like that without an order from somebody. And the question is where? And we're going to fucking find out.
So what was their point in posting all of this shit today?
They're hinting that the 2024 election was stolen.
But where? Like, where would that come from? I guess?
Who knows that, right? Like maybe the Republicans are suppressing the vote, or they burned something, or whatever the fuck, right? That's how you know for certain that the election in 2020 was stolen, because the people who have been brainwashed by all the propaganda, once they see the actual data in front of them, they're like, this cannot be real. I'm looking at the data now, and it can't be real. And that's because their worldview that's been propped up for the last 4 years by this data that it indeed is not real is fucking. I mean, you can't do that, right? Mm-hmm. Your brain will not accept both of those things at the same time. They fucking stole that election, and somebody has got to fucking pay for it. You cannot let that go. I'm not saying that Trump, and he's mentioned this too, isn't going to go on some revenge tour or whatever and start jailing political opponents. That's bullshit. We're not a banana republic. We don't fucking do that. Fuck that shit. Beat him in the election, right? Yeah. But you got to secure the motherfucker first. The election's got to be secure, and the only way you do that is by getting rid of people who would fucking do something like this. It's got to stop.
Now, for Trump and the Trump side here, if you're looking at why he was so successful, I'll go back to 2016 as well. It seems like he's always been ahead of the curve as far as what the next trend is. In this election, it was podcasts.
Yeah, it's because he's authentic.
Yeah,
that's the difference, right? So even CNN or MSNBC rather. I watched MSNBC all morning.
Same.
It was
same.
Oh my
it was
God.
Awesome. It was the best.
To be honest,
when we got back to the hotel, everybody asked what I watched last night. Me and my wife watched MSNBC and nothing else.
I have MDMA at my house. I've got ketamine. I've got cocaine. Yeah. I've got fucking pills, all sorts of pills. None of them compare to what I was seeing on MSNBC this morning. It's so funny. But yeah, even they were saying that Trump is uniquely authentic. Other politicians look around and see what's going on and see what's acceptable to say, and they package that inside of their principles somehow, and that's what they fucking deliver to the public. Trump just says, you know what? Fucking bleh, I don't give a fuck. And people respond to that shit. Mm-hmm. That's why people like Jack Kennedy, too, just because, you know, he would throw off a one-liner, a quip here and there. He was out there smashing ass and getting fucked up. People like that stuff. Same thing with Clinton, by the way. Clinton was wildly popular when he was in office, and it wasn't because, I mean, look, he's a smart guy. Don't get me wrong. He's a fucking Rhodes Scholar. But it wasn't because of that. It was because he was full of shit right out in public. George Carlin used to do a great bit on this. It's like, that's what America's like. I want my bullshit right in front of me where I could see it. You know what I mean? Be yourself. Just be your fucking self, man. And if it's not enough, then you don't belong in the fucking job.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
And again, it changed this election cycle.
Oh, yeah.
It was podcasts, it was interviews, it was J.D. Vance. Look, even on this show, we had Charlie Kirk on, and I'll give Charlie his flowers here today as well. Charlie told us, 3 weeks in advance that it was going to be J.D. Vance was the pick. And I sat there, you know, same as I'm talking to you right now, and I said, hey, man, this guy was a never Trumper. We don't know much about him. Why not pick somebody like a Tulsi or Vivek and everything else? As the election went along, not only was this guy unflappable, he answered every single question. He destroyed, absolutely fucking destroyed in the debates. And then he sat down on podcast after podcast and was a real fucking dude that we could all relate to in the United States of America.
You know, Bob, you probably remember this, being a history guy. FDR used to do these fireside chats.
Yes, on AM radio. Yep.
And that was when, obviously it was a much different world back then. The AM radio, the giant fucking AM radio in somebody's house was the only entertainment they had that was digital, right? Not digital, but you know what I mean. That was actual media. It wasn't like a magazine or a book or some shit. It's where C.S. Lewis got popular. A bunch of
Orson Welles,
Louis L'Amour,
yep.
All these serialized books that came out one chapter at a time per week. That was, it was part of the fabric of America at the time, the dinner table and then the radio, right?
Yeah.
And he only actually did it about 40 times, I think, over the course of his presidency. But the gimmick was once every other week, I'm going to sit down and just have a conversation with the American public. Here's what I've been up to. Here's how the country's going, blah, blah, blah.
Was it a gimmick or was it?
No, it's not a gimmick at all.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant idea. I've been trying to get Trump to do this. Like just maybe just find, even if it's just one person, but my recommendation was find a series of podcasts and just like once a month, go on one of them, just rotate through them and do it once a month. Here's what we've been up to. Here's how this is going. Here's what's going on in China, blah, blah, blah. I think that's a great idea. And I also think if he does it, it's going to set a precedent where everybody's going to start doing it. And you can lie for 5 to 10 minutes. You can't lie for 3 hours. Nobody can. Nobody's that good. And it exposes people not just to the authenticity of the individual, but also the authenticity of their actual ideas. Does this man really understand what he's saying? Because Trump will say some shit, to be honest. And it's perfect for him, frankly, because he'll say some stuff in a fucking quip in a 2-minute paragraph that's like, what the fuck did he just say? Right. And then you sit him down and he talks about it for 20 minutes. You're like, oh man, this guy really understands how tariffs work. Like, he really understands it in a way that these fucking slapdicks on the internet who are criticizing him just don't have any idea about. I think, I hope that the Trump administration will do that and set the precedent that every president from here on does that shit. Why would you not do it?
Yeah, and they already do it in businesses today. So let's say you're out there and you own one share of Amazon, just one share of Amazon stock on the New York Stock Exchange. You were invited to the quarterly report. There is a phone call. You were able to log in, listen just like everybody else in the company.
Same thing with Apple, yeah.
Yes, and hear what is going on, good and bad, in the company on this call, even if you just own one singular share. And yes, I think that would be great.
I mean, think about Trump once a month. He goes on either Rogan or Theo Vaughn or our show or fucking Sean Ryan or even like with liberal hosts. Who cares? Because he doesn't give a shit. Nope. He'll go anywhere. He doesn't care.
Yep.
Go on fucking Young Turks once a month.
Yep.
Have a conversation. That is his strength. And just like John Smoltz always says, you fucking throw your best pitch. Fuck that hitter. Throw your best pitch. And to be honest, this is the thing that really, aside from just making him more successful, being able to communicate what he's going to do, because I think the more he's communicated in long form, look at what's happened. Everybody stops believing all that bullshit propaganda.
Yes.
That's why he won this fucking election.
Yep.
Not just because of the podcast he did, but because he committed to doing more long-form stuff. You set that precedent, and that's good for him. It's also good for the country, but then the next guy comes in, whomever it happens to be, and you have to be successful with that thing now to get elected president, which means you have to not be full of shit. You have to really understand what you're doing. I think it would be huge for our country for that to happen.
And imagine if he didn't do it. Then you're just left to the mainstream media.
The next person that comes in and doesn't do it, you're a fucking pariah.
Exactly.
At that point, yeah.
And if you listen to mainstream media, he's down by 8, down by 10, and everybody thinks, oh my God, it's a complete panic. But meanwhile, he's having conversations every single week. He's everywhere, over and over and over again. The rallies, everything he did during this election was very old school to old school politicians, where, God damn, what was it? What did you say to me today? 400 rallies he did?
Yeah, retail politics, we call it.
Yep.
That's what it's called, retail politics, shaking babies and kissing hands or whatever, I don't know.
400 rallies, podcasts, interviews, J.D. Vance. I think hiring that guy was massive. And I know behind the scenes, it was DJ TJ, it was Donald Trump Jr., who said, look, this is the fucking dude. Just meet with him. I promise you, Dad, this is the guy. And I'm sure that will come out later, but it was him who said, this is your fucking guy. I promise you. And the more and more
You can thank Baker
interviews,
for that too, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yep.
The more and more he did interviews, the more and more he, did debates and everything else. You came to love this guy, and God damn it, man, I would be amped if he was our candidate for 2028. I love J.D. Vance every time he opened his mouth. But if he didn't take these opportunities that Dan just mentioned to go on these shows, to have these conversations, he would just be buried like everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, you do the thing from an infrastructure standpoint, like what the reason I'm saying, because yes, I want Trump to be successful because I believe in his vision for this country, but I also want the country to exist beyond 2028. Surprise, we're still going to be alive then, hopefully. But Gary won't, but the rest of us will probably still be here. I want it to do well. And look, if you're trying to get the best, it's difficult to get the best possible candidate for something, right? To be in office because there's so much noise. You really don't know who the person is until they get into the job sometimes and actually do it. It's really tough. And this is a problem that we've faced for decades in military selections, right? Like I think I would really love to see some of the guys like Eric Haney, who is the first Sergeant Major Delta, some of the guys from DevGru that I won't mention, but people that have developed and refined these selection processes over time to use some of their institutional knowledge to start writing books or even white papers about exactly how to find the right person for the right job. Because they're already doing it for the corporate world. Like there's Navy SEALs that ran BUDS. There's fucking SFAS instructors. There's OTC instructors who are out there in corporate America right now, Ranger, like rip and rasp guys who are like, here's what we did to make sure this guy was fucking resilient. He could handle himself. He wasn't an idiot, whatever the fuck, right? There's a lot of institutional knowledge out there that we can fold into what's going on in this country to teach the American public how to select the best possible candidate for something. Because it isn't just about their policy positions. It's not true, right? As a president, for a 4-year term, you might get 2 things done if you're lucky.
Yep.
Most get one or none.
One, yeah.
Most get 1 or none. If you're lucky, you get 2. In 8 years, you might get 3, maybe, right? Obama only got 1.
Yep.
He only got the Affordable Care Act in 8 years, right? So maybe you get 1 to 3 possible in 8 full years, in 2 terms. We have to make sure that is the best possible person for that job. It's not going to be like, oh, this person believes in this or this or this. And I'm not saying that we should vote against our own interests. You should definitely care about the policy. But you also have to understand that just because you agree with somebody's policy positions doesn't mean they're qualified to be in that fucking job. Because I think that I agree with a lot of DeSantis's policy positions. I do not think he's qualified as a person to be the president of the United States. He does not inspire confidence like that. And say what you want about how stupid that is or whatever the fuck, that it's his personality or whatever. I don't care. Practically, the effect is the effect. Right?
Yep.
So we have to figure out as a country the best, because right now it's a fucking circus popularity contest, and look at what we get out of it. Moron after moron. We had George fucking W. Bush for 8 years. He won the popular vote in 2004. It should be impossible for that guy to have gotten into the presidency, right? But it's a popularity contest. That's what a vote is. So how do we refine that down to a level where there are actual metrics? And I think having something like that, having the precedent set that you have to do long-form conversations on a regular basis throughout your presidency makes the people that want to be president get good at it, which is going to weed out all the retards. They're gone. You'll never hear from those people again in federal politics. They'll probably be bureaucrats and shit because they won't be able to get elected to anything. But you put those motherfuckers through that ringer, and you're going to get the best of the best at it, because nobody can be full of shit for 3 straight hours. Like anybody can go up on stage. You look at Kamala Harris, 10 minutes.
That's it.
10 walls, 10 minutes. That's what they can do.
They're
full of shit.
Speech.
They don't actually believe anything.
Yep.
10 minutes.
Her concession speech for President of the United States was 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Speaking of which, I think we have a very poetic cherry on top.
Oh boy!
Before her concession speech.
What do you got?
Yeah, let's just play the video.
Sure.
See if you catch it.
Yeah.
Oh, no way!
Oh, Peanut was on stage. Oh.
Bob, pull that shirt up.
Damn it, dude. R.I.P. Peanuts. R.I.P. pull that up, Bob. Go to drinkinbros.com because we have the new Trump shirts out as well. He's back. He's back. These are available for sale right now on the website. There it is. Let's go to the top one first here on drinkinbros.com. He's back. Underneath it, 45 and 47, President of the United States. Full disclosure, Dan and I hedged on this, spent a lot of money, and if we were wrong on this, well, it would have gone to some kids in Ethiopia or something like that. Whatever the Super Bowl t-shirts go to. But he's back. Go to drinkinbros.com. Get your Donald Trump bag shirts. And then Peanut. There he is. Don't tread on me, Peanut. R.I.P. Peanuts. Those are available on drinkinbros.com right now. Let's go, dude. Buy some teas over there. And then, for me, D'Anthony, looking back on 2016, things that because I've always been a Trump guy. You listen to the show since 2015 or whenever we started 10 years ago. We all know I've always been a Trump guy. How it started, relatively the same as Dan. I didn't like politics. I didn't like politicians. Didn't care for Bush. Didn't care for Obama. I wanted somebody different, and at the time, we were doing the show as a comedian. I thought it'd be hilarious if Trump won. Mm-hmm. Then I wanted to see what would happen if a celebrity won who had no sense of politics whatsoever and just got in there. What would it do? And then for 4 years, it was great. So I was on board. However, the things that I personally did not like about Trump and wanted him changed for 24 and 2020, he made those. Mm-hmm. I did not like Pence at all. That guy never fucking registered for me.
He's a fucking creep. There's something up with that guy.
Well, I'll go back to the DeSantis thing. There's some people who aren't great on camera. You don't like them. You don't really know why. Unlike DeSantis, who has had great policies and turned the entire state of Florida around, because I love Florida and I actually love DeSantis, I never really got the Pence thing. I didn't like it at all. I also didn't like his picks. I didn't like Bolton. I didn't like any of those fucking guys. It just didn't seem like the right fit for who I thought Trump was. Now, what did he change to this one? He came out immediately, which Harris did not do, and said, all right, here's who's going to work with me personally, and I'm going to give him to you. Tulsi Gabbard. Now, Tulsi was on this show. Mm-hmm. Yet another person who was doing podcasts through all these events. Got to know her not only on the show, but after the show was over, before the show started. She is a great, thoughtful person that would be an excellent addition to a cabinet. D'Anthony and I personally love Vivek Ramaswamy. As soon as Trump announced, hey, Vivek is going to be on this team, awesome. Another very, very smart guy. Behind the scenes, Dan and I have met with his business partner and all of his companies. We are working together. He will be on the show in January, actually, to chat with us as well. Another very, very smart guy who's just using practical sense for a lot of these decisions. RFK Jr., we were threatened by YouTube that our channel would be deleted if we had him on as a guest in 2021 like we were scheduled because they did not like his stance on vaccines. Obviously, Dan's response and the way he stands on those, that's fucked up. That's freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're gonna get banned and deleted from YouTube for having a guest on. He is going to be in cabinet as well. J.D. Vance is fucking great. You've got all these fucking hitters there who don't really seem to give a shit about traditional governments. And then last but not least, Elon Musk. He's bringing on Elon Musk to shrink the size of federal government.
Well, Elon Musk has an assistant.
Who's that?
Ron fucking Paul.
Ron Paul, that's right.
The guy who's been trying to end the Fed for 50 years.
Ron Paul.
Is going to be Elon Musk's little buddy.
Yep.
And
that is an exciting team for me. That will be something completely different, unique for America, for our governments, and I don't want to see it. Now, personally, what will I do? Will me, as a huge Trump guy, be disappointed in if he doesn't do these things on opening day? I want to see the border shut down. I want to see all those EOs he enacted back in 2016 back in place, all those executive orders. Let's curb the fucking immigration crisis. I want to see these 85,000 IRS agents eliminated. I want them gone. I just don't see a need for it. The country was fine, forgive me, without them. Again, we got super fucking rocks last night. It was a 6-hour show. Forgive my voice. But I want to see them gone. I never really understood that. My 71-year-old father, who is retired, is under an audit now from 3 years ago. When they said, oh, we're going to go for the rich, we're going to go for the rich, they're not. They're going after the middle class. They're going after the elderly because they don't have a way to protect themselves financially to fight these fucking guys. I want to see a shrinkage of overall government as a whole. I want it more efficient, and I want these bullshit people with the lobbyists and the money and all that other shit out of there. I hope all of that happens. If it does not, I'll be disappointed.
I've got a couple of requests. Pardon every single J6er that wasn't violent now, right now. Right now. I think, as a matter of fact, I think that Trump should extend that courtesy to Joe Biden on his way out. Like, hey, I'm going to pardon all these people anyways. Why don't you do it and make that part of your legacy that we're healing this country? Pardon Ross Ulbricht now.
Yep.
The Silk Road guy. Close the borders for 5 or 10 years.
Yep.
No incoming immigration. Deport anybody with a criminal record or any of that stuff. It's about 1 million people, not 20. We're not deporting 20 million people. It's not going to happen. An EO or some kind of pressure for legislation that requires anybody working for the government or serving in office to renounce any foreign citizenship they have, to include Israel. No more of that. That should be unconstitutional. That needs to be that should be a constitutional amendment, frankly. In funding Ukraine, in funding Israel. I don't know if he'll do that second one.
Why not? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know. I haven't seen any reason to believe he would. He hasn't made any statements to that effect. I mean, so there's a rumor that Netanyahu was waiting to do the ceasefire until Trump got elected.
Okay.
Because he doesn't want, like, Biden is a disaster for them, and Harris would be even worse. And then, end the Department of Education, which I think he's going to do, and then finally decrease government employees by about 75%. That would be, 3 million? So 75% of that. Get them out.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be paying for that shit. And then to your other point about all the personalities that are around Trump now, think about the composition of his coalition with Vance, who was an enemy of his just a few years ago.
Yep.
And RFK, who's a 50-year-long Democrat. And
also an enemy of his, by the way.
Tulsi Gabbard, who is a Democrat.
Also an enemy of his at one point.
And Elon Musk, who is a fucking Democrat and always has voted Democrat until 2020. Or maybe he may have voted for Biden, actually.
Even Trump. Trump was a Democrat up until 2012.
This is what government is meant to be. A great leader who is surrounded by supporters with disparate ideas politically that are trying to practically solve problems. This is the relationship that Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan had together. Now, they were in full military industrial complex swing in the 80s, just like they were starting in the early 60s. But this is the way that government is supposed to function. Not with a uniparty that's just siphoning money off of people. And it's weird now. So the two parties we have now, and they don't really, Democrat and Republican doesn't really mean anything anymore, but the two parties we have now is, and it's, by the way, a lot of people that are still in the Republican Party fall on the left in this regard. There's this large group of people in D.C. that are still trying to extract labor and wealth from the population and enrich themselves and make themselves rich. Jake and I talked about this for fucking 20 minutes the other day. And then there's a side of people who are a bunch of fucking folks that have never been involved in politics before, except for Tulsi, right? JD's relatively new himself.
Yeah,
Trump's
senator,
relatively new.
Yeah.
All these people are relatively new to politics who are just like, look, guys, it's not that fucking hard. It's not that hard to solve these problems if you actually want to, and you have to actually want to. And the people that are in office now, and that's why I say politicians are cunts, most of these people have no desire at all to actually solve any problems. They're just there for greed or fame. It's one of the two, right? And once you see it done well, it's going to be hard for people to just accept the propaganda anymore, to be honest. Once they see it done well by a bunch of people who fucking shouldn't have even been there in the first place, according to them, oh, you guys aren't born in the purple.
Right.
You know what I mean? Once you see it done well by by this coalition of people, it's going to be very difficult to go back for people. We're on the precipice now of a massive populist movement that is going to hold people accountable. And that's why I want to work in things like that long-form public discussion that happens on a regular basis to have a two-way conversation with the government, right? Mm-hmm. They should be afraid of us.
Yeah.
They should know that we have the power. They should know that, and they should respond accordingly. That doesn't mean we don't need leaders, right? That doesn't mean we don't need leaders. We still have to fucking have some system. We have to elect people into it, and we have to make sure that that election process isn't a popularity contest, but a test of fucking aptitude. It has to be.
And for me last night, it inspired hope, not just because of Trump, but because of everybody he's surrounded himself with now. Mm-hmm. And I think it will be different going forward. Also with J.D. Vance, that guy, man, he's got a very bright future. And if Trump is able to do this, because let's face it, he's 78, he's got 4 years, and that's it. It's going to take him a very long time to unwind all the fuck-ups that Biden has done. But if he passes the torch to J.D. Vance and then the rest of this cabinet is there's a very, very bright future. And yes, to your point, it's going to be hard to vote against that if you're just running it like a well-run business and you care about America first.
Yeah, I mean, there's one. People had it good under Trump. And for a short time, they believed all the propaganda that he's evil enough that they voted against. I think people knew that it was going to be worse under Biden. I don't think anybody actually believed it was going to get. I mean, how could it have gotten any better? He had 8% collective inflation over 4 years.
Yeah,
that is impressive to say the least, especially these days. I mean, if you look side by side at the growth rate of Bitcoin versus inflation and the U.S. dollar, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah,
he did a really good job of maintaining the value of our currency. Once you see it done well, it's going to be hard for and this spell of propaganda is kind of broken now. It's going to be very difficult to go back. And I think it's an opportunity. This is what I hope happens. I hope that these people that are on the left do what RFK did, follow in his footsteps. I don't agree with everything he says. He's a bit of a kook sometimes, especially with the environmentalist stuff. It's like, shut the fuck up, dude.
I like that he's a falconer, though.
That is pretty impressive. I mean, he's probably gotten laid a couple times for being a falconer.
Oh, yeah.
Probably a couple dozen. Yeah. But think about the trajectory he's on. It's not about Republican, Democrat, liberal, any of that shit. People need to be healthy, and I'm going to go work with anybody that wants to make fucking people healthy. That's it. Right? So I'm hoping that the left, instead of everything that you're hearing on television right now, which is coping and seething and blaming everybody but them fucking selves, there's a couple of people out there that are taking blame, but mostly they're not taking blame. What I hope happens is that they look at what RFK and Tulsi are doing and be like, you know what, if I want to satisfy this itch that I have to be popular or whatever it is that drives people into public service, sometimes it is like just noble intentions. But if I really want to scratch that itch, I need to align myself with actually getting shit done. Like, let's get rid of the Affordable Care Act and find a health care plan that limits costs in a way that matters. There's no provision in the ACA, in Obamacare, that stops pharmaceutical companies from advertising their products, from paying people to prescribe them. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's crazy the way this system, the system they set up that is supposed to be like this, everybody deserves healthcare as a human right, right? So why are we giving 80% of the funds we spend on healthcare to insurance companies then?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like they're just bilking people. Have some fucking balls out there if you're a lefty. Have some fucking balls. Realize that this path has been fucked up. It's not about beating Republicans. It's about getting the best possible version of your product out there, right? That's a business. That's how it works. Do that shit and make the fucking country better. Do your fucking job.
Yeah, and again, last night, there was a lot of hope for me where it is possible, I think, we'll find out if it is over the next 4 years, but at least there is a candidate out of the two who said, hey, I'm going to work with the other side. I'm going to bring in some Democrats. I'm going to bring this in. I'm going to shrink it and try to figure it out where Kamala, over the next few months or weeks or however long this is going to go, everybody's going to second guess why and everything else. We never knew a policy that she cared about other than abortion. It was go to my website, and I've got this plan, and I've been under there for 3.5 years. If you wanted to fix immigration, it's a simple executive order. You could have just done it. The border bill was always bullshit. Also, same with you. I'll be pissed off if he doesn't stop funding these wars with Trump. Like, get it done with and everything else. And I guarantee you, Zelensky right now, after the results and after the speech that just happened, an hour and a half ago, is pissed off.
Do you think so?
Oh, he doesn't get any more money.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
done.
he's already
He's
rich,
done.
though. He's a billionaire.
He is now, but he's still got to save face, and I think he cares about being famous as well. He's going to have to give up some of that land. I think that war will end shortly. And how much can one guy do in 4 years? However, if you build the right cabinet and then pass it on to J.D. Vance and whoever else he picks going forward, I think there is a real shot to make change in this country. Now, if it doesn't happen, I personally, as a Trump guy, will be pissed off about it because that's what I voted for. That's what you promised me, and that's what I hope happens. We will see. I've been disappointed in politicians before. However, 2016 and 2020, it was pretty fucking great for us. Not only as small business owners and everything else, but as a country, gas prices, food prices, energy prices, everything else. If you're a Democrat, you got to be waking up today saying we lost the House, we lost the Senate, we lost the presidency. What's wrong? I think the mistakes that they made was the transgender bullshit, the DEI bullshit, and everything else. I think a lot of that will be eliminated going forward. And the best of the best will get the jobs. Sorry, there's going to be a lot of Asians that get your fucking jobs because they are the smartest. And as a white guy, zero problem saying that right now. The transgender shit. When you go that hard against a cause for so long, that is, I think you said 0.8% of the population, that is not a winnable position. Much like in 2022 with abortion and Republicans, wasn't a winnable position. I think looking back on it, they spent way too much time on that, and especially in Texas, and I guess because we were drilled in the face with it every single day with Colin Allred and all of his bullshit, I think that will be eliminated going forward. And today, at least, there's a lot of hope. We will see what happens. The other speculation, which I'll ask you now, is does he survive the 4 years?
Yeah,
not because of age.
Yeah, I know.
But because people
want
him out.
It's buttoned up.
Okay.
It's buttoned up. I'll say that. I'm not going to say too much about that, but
there was 2 assassination attempts already.
Yep.
That has been there's been a lot of questions about that this morning, and obviously I don't want to see that happen, but it's been talked about a lot.
It's buttoned up.
Yeah.
Now, to the other part about, I guess, if you want to call it hope, it isn't just Republicans that are feeling it. There are a lot of angry white ladies out there that are shouting at the sky like they did in 2016. But do you remember how all the economists, including that woman on The View earlier, were like, oh, Trump's economic plan is going to, drive us into a depression or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
Bob, can you check the NASDAQ really quickly? Well, never mind. I'll do it myself. S&P 500 right now is up 2.53%, the entire thing.
Okay.
Okay. The Dow 30 is up 3.6%, the entire thing. The NASDAQ is up 3%. The entire goddamn NASDAQ is up 3%, right? Pretty much every trading market set records today.
I mean, do we care
Part
about
of it
the
is
stock
because
market now?
Yes, I do. I always care about the stock market. What do
You
mean?
guys didn't care about it at all for the last 4 years. It's been on an upward trajectory for like 12 years. Like,
that's relative. That's inflation, though, right?
No, look at this. This is crazy. It's been doing this since basically after the recession.
It has
ended.
But
every single president, Obama, Trump, Biden, and probably now Trump again, they are all going to smash records in the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow. Like, it's just been doing that forever.
Sure, yeah. I don't think we see daily 3% increases on every fucking trading market. That doesn't happen on a regular basis.
That would be insane. And then the other thing, but I'll relate it to small businesses, and I said this on Ross Patterson Revolution the other day. Right now in November, the first week in November is when they renew ads for the year for podcasts for our business right now. They said, hey, we're taking a hard pause here to wait to see who wins this election. Got a lot of emails this morning from people saying, all right, we've got some hope for next year.
Yeah, that's what it is. I mean, these single day trading, like stuff, all of these are going to rise relative to inflation, right? And that's what they've been doing over the last couple of years. Keep in mind that I don't know what it's been since 2008, but since 2001, we've experienced 72% inflation in this country, currency inflation, 72%. So that upward trajectory you see, that's what it is. You can go to inflationcalculator.gov or whatever the fuck and look that up. That's a real thing. This shows that people who move money around, which is very good for the economy, this shows that people who move money around are very excited about the possibility of having Trump in office. The Dow 30 is at 43.7 right now, right? Mm-hmm. That's consumer confidence is really important. You know what I mean? It's one of the biggest indicators. What is it since 2008? 48% or 46.5? What is it?
46.5.
46.5. Yeah, that's a lot in fucking 16 years. Jesus Christ. But you know, that is what it is. So you're gonna see those upward trajectories. People around the world are thrilled. And look, to be fair, some of it could also be because it was a definitive blowout.
So the
right?
S&P, I can't go back further than that. At least it's easier to do it this way because the way it sorts. So I'm not trying to do it arbitrarily here. The S&P is up 91% over the last 5 years.
And inflation is 22?
22.5. Yeah. So it's outpaced inflation quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, the richest of the rich have stocks now. That's
not
what
true.
happens.
It's not true.
It is true.
A huge amount of millennial wealth.
Absolutely not fucking true.
I
sold
401ks.
I sold all of my stocks once that happened because of inflation. Like I had to pay for other shit.
I'm telling you, the number one place that.
Do you have a 401k?
Yeah, the number one place for wealth.
Where is your 401k?
It's through fucking.
What is it for?
What do you mean? It's an old work 401k that I still put stuff
What
into.
work?
What are you talking about? I had a 401k through Grand X.
Grand X offered a 401k.
Yeah, and they matched up to 3%.
Really?
Yeah.
And then that's why they went bankrupt?
Maybe.
Yeah.
But that is the number one place where millennial wealth is because it's not home ownership anymore. It's in 401ks.
You're not making a point that supports fucking Biden there, bud.
I'm not making a point that supports anything. I'm telling you that the overall of the last beyond Trump, Biden, Obama, all of that has trended upwards.
This is
wealth.
pedantic nonsense, Bob. Just shut the fuck up, because I'll tell you why. The point wasn't that Trump's going to explode the fucking stock market, and that was clearly not what I was talking about.
I don't think he's going to explode the stock market.
What I'm talking about is that consumer confidence today is very high globally because people think he's competent and they think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are fucking retards, right?
Yep.
That's the point. So that's where a lot of this hope stuff is coming from. Now, to the other point about Trump and the legacy and the future and all that shit, he's got to do more than just repair the Republican Party and set it up for the future. We've got to repair the country as a whole, right? Which means that people like, and he's doing it so far. We'll see how it goes once he's actually inaugurated and all that bullshit. But people like RFK have to have a seat at the table, regardless of, he's a fucking Democrat. We're not talking to Democrats. You got to get that shit out of your head.
Yes.
That's got to go, man.
And so does Tulsi.
Yeah. I mean,
you got to have a seat at the table, hear the other ideas, implement them, and then work with the other side who are pretty much common sense. Now, the question I have for you, which is a question that a lot of people had for me this morning, was how does Trump fix inflation? Energy, we know. We've got endless fucking resources here for oil and everything else, the drill, baby, drill. That's an easy one. How does he end inflation?
Stop spending money. That's it. Stop printing and spending money. The end.
That's it? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, it's very simple. And then, the in-out revenue for a business or a company. So, like, think about it this way. I won't get too into the particulars because it's our fucking business, but we paid a certain amount of money for 2 or 3 products that go into our product: the can, the lid, the box, and then the ingredients of the seltzer itself.
Yeah, for hard AF seltzer. Yeah.
Yes. Yep. And anytime you can pull price down on that, you create more net revenue. Net revenue is code for profit. That's your profit, right?
Yep.
Any additional money I spend outside of the bare minimum it takes to make my product cuts into my net revenue. So anytime you can slim that down, whether it's through QDOs, like buying more in bulk, or having a more efficient process, saving on shipping, whatever it is, you can make more money. It's the same thing for a country. That's how it works. If we're producing more of our own energy, then we're not spending money on other people's energy, right? So the money that we are spending, this is it can get pretty fucking in the weeds here, but I've told you this many times before, $1 spent in a local economy, and that includes a country's economy, not just like your city or whatever, multiply 7 to 11 times before it leaves, right? Before an investor who's making money with a big business takes it offshore or buys a fucking $22 million house in a fucking foreign country, or whatever the fuck happens. You know what I mean? There's endless possibilities there. Once we start becoming more independent on these things, then these expenditures that exist, like the oil we're still buying from Russia, for example, still,
Yep.
right? That goes away. And then with that, we don't have to get involved in these fucking stupid conflicts all over the place. That saves us money. There's a million ways to do this. Cutting the government down to the fucking bone. Like I said this in jest yesterday, but I fucking mean it. I want a government that is so small and inefficient that it doesn't have the resources to conduct a 5-hour raid on a man's home because he's got a fucking pet squirrel. That's what I want. I think that would be a satisfactory outcome for us. There's a million ways to cut spending. And it isn't just austerity. We don't have to fucking end the country. It's like, oh, sorry, you're all fucked.
Yep.
If you don't believe there's waste in government, man, you just don't pay attention. It's none of this shit needs to exist. So yeah, there's a million ways that he can tackle inflation.
Yeah.
And then the tariff thing helps as well, right?
It does.
It makes us more competitive on the global stage. Every country charges tariffs for U.S. goods to go into their country. Everyone. There's not one country where we get to insert our product into their country without paying a tariff. Not one. And then when you ask countries to do that coming into America, you're like, oh, it's going to kill jobs. Everything will cut. There's some bitch on Twitter yesterday. I think it was Joe from Jers, that fat girl.
Yeah.
Just, rage coping.
Well, she's paid by the Democrats to have an account.
She's like,
Victor, she's one of them. Harry Sasson.
She was like, just wait until eggs are $18. I'm like, I can go buy 5 chickens and put them in my backyard, dum-dum.
Yeah, for $18.
I don't have to buy eggs from Mexico.
Right.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Do you really think that's how it works? The only place, it's like this white liberal bullshit where the serfs, the Mexican serfs have to come up here and do our lawn work and harvest our vegetables, or we'll starve to death.
Right.
Get your fucking fat ass outside. Maybe you wouldn't look like that.
Right. Or the fucking people complaining about Latinos voting against illegal immigration.
Yeah, that's one of the dumbest things I fucking
They're
heard.
legal.
They're legal.
Yeah.
One,
They're citizens.
2, they have their own minds. Let them do what they're going to do. Why is every white person bitching about that on the left today? Like,
because
that's another fucking race that is voting however they want.
Because they're racist. They sort everybody into classes. They sort them into gender, into race, into ethnicity, and then go on down the fucking sociological bullshit, all the gender bullshit.
Yeah.
Everybody's sorted. They're all sorted out in their little thing. Oh, what do you mean you don't vote like they do? I can't believe Latinx didn't fucking blah, blah, blah. Like, why should you expect somebody who went through the ass ache to become a fucking legal citizen of this country to just look at people? Can you imagine that? Just imagine yourself at a football game, right? You're at the Super Bowl. You just spent $10,000 on 4 tickets to the Super Bowl, which is a good deal, by the way.
Great deal.
You just spent $10,000 on 4 tickets to the Super Bowl. And you got your whole fucking family in there, and then you just see 80 people walk in with no ticket, and nobody even tries to stop them. How does that make you feel? Like a fucking chump.
Yep.
That's how it makes you feel. It makes you feel angry and resentful, and that's the way they should feel, and that's why they voted the way they did.
And looking back on it, obviously we did the pre-prediction show on Sunday nights here that we aired. Closest-wise, I had the closest as far as electoral college votes go. However, Dan, you did predict the Republicans would sweep presidency, Congress, and Senate, which it looks like it is going to happen here according to the latest updates. Bob, serious question for you. You were the one person to pick Kamala Harris here. Out of your friends and yourself, What do you think happened, and why did you make that particular prediction?
It was just that turnout didn't go the way that I think anyone thought it would go.
You mean on actual election day or before?
The whole thing. Whole thing. So here's a great example. Perfect.
And Shapiro, by the way, Shapiro is wildly popular there. And
Josh Shapiro.
Yes,
in Pennsylvania.
But typically, when you have a partisan governor who is popular, it's hard to go in and win that state as the other side, even if you're an incumbent sometimes. And we saw Tim Walz, they lost Minnesota because he's such a fucking retard. Not lost, but they got way closer.
It was close.
Been.
Yeah.
I mean,
that should have been.
Did win.
He did win, but that should have been like a 6 to 8 point victory in Minnesota.
Everything was close. I think New Jersey was like 4 points or 5 points, which is crazy. So a perfect example of this is one thing I was watching on the swing states. I picked Nevada for Kamala. In Nevada, there's a huge swath of independent voters because. Technically independent voters, because you are auto registered to vote when you get a driver's license, right? So if you move to the state or you turn 18 or 16, you're not registered at 16, but once you have your driver's license and then turn 18, you're auto reg, I guess, basically. And there was a serious prediction that a lot of those auto registered independents, transplants, and young people were going to break for Kamala, and to my knowledge, they did not. So the thing is that even if it was a relatively even if it was like 50-50, that's not the swing she needed, right?
Yeah. Did you see the biggest surprise out of all the demos in this, not race or any of that bullshit? 18 to 24-year-olds, 42% voted for Trump. Or
42%. I didn't.
Yeah.
That's
like
wild.
or maybe it was higher. Maybe it was like 45 or something like
The
that.
youngins like to go conservative now.
Yeah.
Well,
we said
it about Rogan the other day. Like when he said, Rogan, hey man, it's punk rock to be Republican because it wasn't cool. Now it's cool. And
the Democrats have to win 65% of that block to win ever. That's always been the case. Now, Gen X was up for her. So your generation was up for her for some reason. Women.
My generation?
It's women, yeah.
33?
No.
33 years old?
No,
That's
you're
weird.
65
Generation,
years
yeah,
old.
you're me and you.
Go to go to
birds of
Twitter
the same feather.
right quick and go to Batya Ungar Sargon. Batya.
If you can spell that, by the way,
it'll be the
I'll
only
give you-
one that
I'll give
pops
you
up. I
$5.
promise you. There's no one else on earth named that. Batya. And let's see. Scroll down a little bit farther. There's one that's where the headline is "This was the election." She posts a lot, so it might be. But I'm pretty sure it was from today. Yeah, there we go. 2 graphs right there. So this is the first one. White women with a college degree have been increasingly going Democratic.
Why?
Because of abortion.
Gotcha.
Right? And they don't like Trump either. They
Okay.
think he's mean. He's a mean guy. Now scroll over to the next picture.
And they're educated, if you want to put that in quotes.
Okay.
Yeah. And then voters of color, no degree. They're losing them rapidly because all they do is talk down to think about the way that fucking what's her name, Kathy Hochul in New York.
Yeah.
Like, oh, black people don't even know the word computer, man.
Right.
And just the general leftist attitude over the last fucking 10 years or so that black people can't figure it out. They just can't figure out life, man. How do you get a lawyer? How do you start a business? What the fuck are you talking about?
It's
Do
nuts.
you know any black people?
Yeah,
It drives
I
me
know.
fucking crazy even hearing that shit. And this is why. This is like, and look, sometimes these, Bob and I were talking about it last night on the way out. Sometimes there are big reorganizations in the parties about the coalition that party holds. It happened in the 1960s with the Dixiecrats kind of converted into the social justice movement bullshit. I mean, up until the Democrats, what year would you say, Bob? Like fucking 60 or 58 to 61, sometime in that time period, they were full on KKK, man. Like for real, Robert fucking Byrd.
Yeah.
It was kind of like 2 parties in one. To be honest, it was Northern Democrats and Southern Democrats.
The
and then
Dixiecrats,
Republicans.
they called them, yeah.
Yeah. And then there was a big reshuffling, basically after the Civil Rights Act, I guess would be a good.
What was that, 55?
No, 66.
64.
With Jumbo.
Or 60, yeah. Yeah, so then Nixon comes in with and this is why the Republicans have this this stink of racism on him still. Nixon started this thing with a man named political strategist named Atwater called the Southern Strategy. And Atwater straight up, there's actually audio of him. I think I've talked about it before. There's audio of him. You can look it up right now on the internet. You can find it easily on YouTube, where he says, well, we can't call him the N-word anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to call white people hardworking Americans.
Oh,
right?
yeah, I remember that.
And then they're going to make the association that if you're white, you're a hardworking American, and if you're not, well, you're something else, right? And it was very effective in the South, where people were still deeply racist in a lot of places. And also they still had, like, it's weird to think about now. I guess it's not because of the way we see gerrymandering and shit like that go on now, but there were deeply segregated places in the South and in the throughout from the 60s to the 90s.
Yes,
like deeply segregated.
Even in Georgia,
like northern Alabama.
Even I grew up in Georgia. It was not intentionally.
It's not that long ago. Yeah,
just
it was a remnant of slavery, then obviously of Jim Crow, but it's like that shit still existed, and politicians did what politicians do. They fucking tried to win elections. How can we convince this group to vote for us? And the less ethical ones will play that game where it's like, well, it's the path of least resistance is to convince him that dude over there is his enemy.
Yeah.
Right? That's all I really got to do. And that's what they did with Trump. You don't hear any real substantive criticisms of the policies of Trump. Nobody's out there attacking the Abraham Accords.
No.
How could you?
The only thing
you can't attack 8%.
Abortion. The only thing they went after was abortion.
Yeah, but that's stupid because he doesn't control that.
I understand, but that was the only policy, right? If there was multiple policies, great. But that was the one that they could hang their hat on, and that was it. Bob, the other question I have for you, and by the way, totally not shitting on you at all when I say this. You probably have more liberal friends than the rest of us. What was the conversation like of why she lost, like this morning or last night with that? Because I don't give a shit about polls and everything else. I care about real people and real conversations. Was it that she was a weak candidate? Did she come to the election too late? Like, what was it exactly?
Okay, before I let Bob answer that question, I'm just going to cover up my prediction real quick.
Yeah, of the tie.
Yeah. Listen, I dared to be great.
Yep.
There was a very small window where it could happen. I apologize for nothing.
CNN actually posted your prediction last night during the show. So we laughed about it, and it was real. There was a real possibility of that. But, Bob, what is the reaction between, like, real people? Like, Rachel Maddow and all those people don't really fucking count. Like, what was it? Was it like, all right, cool?
I haven't seen anything real yet.
Like, but from friends or like, hey, dude,
I haven't texted anyone about it other than just our little like softcore history thing. But like posting, I've seen. I mean, dude, I've been asleep all day.
From last night.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be curious to hear on
because that's
later
what
in the week.
That's what I want to know of like, hey,
I think
it will come out of like, hey, was it a weak candidate? I mean, we've
sure
joked
people
about it on the show in the past of like, you know, Trump has won twice and didn't play anybody. You know, like the first two SEC games.
I've seen some friends complain about and some like sexism, but it's all really like I wouldn't call those. It's like reactionary still. I would say I haven't really spoken to anyone in a serious way about it yet.
Because for me, I thought of that last night, like of sexism, right? If you have a very smart female, and like Dan has talked about this numerous times, we've had guests on here numerous times. The people who are really running shit behind the scenes, nuking people out, terrorists, and all that other shit are women. There's a lot of smart women. I don't think it's because she's a woman. I just think she doesn't have the policies. Like that's what I really look back on.
There are like a very large segment of our voting bloc was alive when Margaret Thatcher was running England, right? When she was instrumental. Look, I think she's a war hawk. I'm not a fan, right? She and Kissinger and all those motherfuckers, they did some shit that I just don't like. But she was a very competent leader. Regardless if you agree with the specific shit that she did, she was a very competent leader and commanded respect. Commanded, not demanded. That's very fucking different, right? Anybody that's been in any kind of leadership position, or if you had a leader, which it's everybody, right? Yep. You've been in one of the two spots or both. You know the difference between somebody who demands respect and somebody who commands respect. And the latter is a fucking leader, and the former is just some weak bitch, right? And that's what Kamala Harris is. You'll respect me. You'll say my name right. It's Kamala. Well, you are on tape 3 years ago saying it differently. and now I'm racist for not. Like, that's weak bullshit, right? And people could smell right through that. I just don't. I don't buy that excuse. I just don't buy it, man.
I don't either. And like in 2016 and in this election, like I don't think men are afraid of electing a woman. You just want a strong boss ass bitch who's going to get it done. And I don't think we've had one of those run yet.
No.
So that's the. I think that's
there's
the difference.
there's been no woman in American politics that approaches the competence of Margaret Thatcher.
But what's weird is like with me, like obviously I've said on the show many times with a Hollywood background, that women ran fucking movie studios in Hollywood. They were fucking gangsters, dude. Like you were afraid of them. Sherry Lansing is one of them, where you're just like, yo, dude, I'm afraid of this.
And they all
fucking
started
woman.
as either assistants or producers or something.
Yeah,
and
dude.
all worked their way up.
Yes.
Like none of them, none of the fucking hyper successful ones were nepotism or trust funds.
Yep.
They were all fucking just like, as you said, gangsters.
Yes, and one of my favorite lawyers in L.A. was this woman, man, and she is worth $1 gajillion now. I won't say her name or what she does, but she really fucking succeeded. But she was a fucking gangster and would cut your goddamn throat. I just don't think that out of the two that have run so far, they have met that and then can portray that to the public like everyone else. I think your best shot was probably Tulsi at the time. But, she never got past, the third round or whatever it was of the primaries. But I think it'll take somebody like that. So, like, even looking back, like, I don't think it's a sexism thing for real. Like, I'd vote for a woman in 10 seconds if she was a fucking gangster. Zero problem with it. Some of the most powerful people I've worked with and Dan has worked with in real life are women. Zero issues with that. I just think at the end of the day, it came down to policies. It came down to the last 4 years. It came down to groceries, energy, and everything else. And she couldn't escape what she had done and been tied to for the last 4 years, and couldn't convey her message to the American people that she was going to be different, and here were the changes that she was going to make.
I mean, it was really just a tornado of stupidity. They did. It's funny. Joy Reid was. I'm not even making this up. As I was saying before, I watched MSNBC all morning. Joy Reid was. She kept saying that they ran a flawless campaign.
Right.
What the fuck? What in what goddamn universe did they run even a decent campaign, much less flawless? But what's interesting? I've talked about working in politics before, specifically on the recall election in Wisconsin in 2012 for Scott Walker. And the Democrats lost. And when we did exit polls and surveys afterwards, aside from just general partisanship, the main indicator of why somebody voted against the recall, because he wasn't that popular, was they didn't believe in recalls, right? That was the number one thing that people reported. The reason they voted against it was they didn't believe in recalls. And I think people do have some innate sense of justice. A lot of folks are trying to pinpoint exactly when Kamala Harris lost this election. Some people say it was when Trump took that bullet and stood up and said, fight. I think a lot more people agree that it was actually when he, the mugshot, when the mugshot got released and people were like, what the fuck's going on here?
Right.
Anybody that was really like independent voters, think about the process. I'm a Republican, I'm voting Republican, I don't give a shit. Okay, I'm a Democrat, I'm voting Democrat, I don't give a shit. How does an independent voter make up their mind every year? Like Bob, how does Bob make up his mind every year? He fucking looks at shit that other people don't look at. That's the only way you can do it,
listens.
Right? You got to pay a little bit of attention. And it doesn't mean that the process you go through is perfect or anything, but it does mean that you've done probably more than the average partisan dum-dum, right? So you start looking at this stuff like 34 felonies. What's the felony?
Right.
It's like, oh, the statute of limitations ran on that. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. I think for a lot of these people, especially the coalition he built of people that have been marginalized by the justice system to some degree in this country over the last fucking 100 years or so, or more, they saw that and they're like, you know what? Fuck these guys. Like there's an innate sense of justice in human beings. And when they see injustice, it makes them angry, and it should, because you can imagine it happening to you. And I think people really fucking reacted to that shit. I think in a lot of ways, I think this is a lot of folks saying, you know what? You're not going to fucking make this choice for me. Now, the biggest mistake that the Harris campaign made was not allowing that open primary. I think she still would have won. Who would have beat her? Honestly, I don't know that any of those other people wanted to go up against Trump on a short fucking window like that.
Shapiro behind the scenes.
I don't think he would have done it.
But what we've heard behind the scenes is that he had young kids, didn't want them in the White House, and didn't want to, ruin that. And I understand it.
And it would have been very.
Gretchen Whitmer would be the other one.
Yeah, but it would have been on. Well, for Whitmer, it would have made some sense. But for a man to step into that, it would have been very unpopular on the left.
Correct.
Because they play those fucking demographic games. And she was the sitting VP. That would have been very difficult, right? So just have the fucking don't take people's choice away. They don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't like it, no matter what it is. Look at abortion. 99.99999% of women will never even think about that. They would never do it. And they'll never be in the circumstance to do it. But because you're telling them not to, then they get fucking mad. Right?
You tell me I can't do cocaine, I'm going to do cocaine right now in front of your face.
Can't, that was the epicenter of her campaign. Was like, you know what? It's fine. She's good. She's in. It's like, man.
And the other part of this is you can play that Joy Reid clip right now that Dan was talking about that I just sent you, Bob, is you can't have people go on TV and speak for your party like this either right after this happens. Go ahead and play this clip.
It's a state that I think Democrats definitely were reaching for. There was a lot of work to try to turn out the college campuses, which were really thick and really packed, and try to turn out the suburbs. And I think there was a lot of hope because of just the insanity, can we say fairly, of the person who's running for governor in that state, and a thought that, defeating him would also carry Harris in. But in the end, if they didn't make their numbers and essentially exceed the numbers that Joe Biden had in the suburbs, and I think we have to be blunt about why. Black voters came through for Kamala Harris. White women voters did not. That is what it appears happened in that state, is that if you can't flip enough white women, and we've talked about this on this set numerous times, is that you have a state where you've got a 6-week abortion or a 12-week abortion. I think theirs might be 12 weeks.
Yep.
But it's a state where women lost their reproductive rights, where there was a very heavy push to get women to focus on not putting in place, re-electing, putting back into the White House the person who was responsible for taking those rights away and restoring them. But that message obviously was not enough to get enough white women to vote for Vice President Harris, a fellow woman. This will be the second opportunity that white women in this country have to change the way that they interact with the patriarchy. And, God bless Shannon Watts, who has tried to have that conversation. But if people aren't receptive to it, and if people vote more party line or more on race than on gender and on protecting their gender, there's really not much more that you can do but tell people what the risks are and leave it to them to do the right thing.
And so here's why this is dangerous.
Good God, man.
Yes, because
vote with your own people. You got to vote with your own people. What the fuck kind of racist bullshit is that?
Not only is that crazy, but white women decide elections. They don't give a fuck about race. They voted Obama in. Do not give a shit about race. But by saying this on television over and over and over again, that's not going to get you any votes for the next thing. You can't do it. If Joy Reid still has a job next year, I'd be fucking stunned.
Yeah, you gotta look through all, and we're not gonna do it here. We gotta get out of here, but
yeah,
you gotta go look through Twitter, not to go talk shit or anything, but just observe the way that the majority, I'm sure there are exceptions, but the majority of all these paid Democratic influencers are like
JoJo from Jersey.
Yeah, it's like, I'm really disappointed in my country, disappointed in Americans failed us. No, Americans chose what they think is best. I mean, what a very ignorant thing to say, to be honest.
Absolutely.
That's a very ignorant thing to say. And it's if you're looking at 26 and 28 and your attitude going into it is going to be that, then you're going to fucking lose again, big time. You better start fucking doing some soul searching there, brother.
I agree. And then the last one, Bob, pull up the Rachel Maddow clip. Our audience has sent this in.
You're talking about
today.
Gumby?
I haven't seen it. So
she looks like fucking Gumby to me.
I tweeted it to you, but play that for. I have not seen this, so the audience keeps sending it in.
NBC News has a projection to make in the presidential contest in the swing state of Pennsylvania. NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump. Now, I believe that means that we are at a 266 electoral vote count for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris had 194 electoral votes. So to be clear here, this is the third of the 7 major swing states that have been called. But Georgia and North Carolina and Pennsylvania, as those 3 states, presents an almost unless there's it presents an insurmountable future here for Kamala Harris and for the Democratic ticket. NBC News has...
You're watching someone realize
in real time what has actually happened here. Now is the point in the show we get to the Drinkin' Bro of the Week. We do not do this very often. However, last night there was 1,000 people there. It was sold out. It was fucking awesome. With that, it is very, very hard to put on a production. Even though we are not in Hollywood, this is a Hollywood production behind the scenes. Those of you who are there, who have been in the studio, you get to see it. Really, really want to give Drinkin' Bro of the Week to our own crew here. That is Dan Regester. That is Hot Bob. That is fucking Joel back there.
Gary managed to show up at some point.
Well,
and survive.
He didn't help out.
No, he didn't do anything. If anything,
I'm not giving Gary Drinkin' Bro of the Week.
No, if anything, he hurt.
Yeah. Coop ended up helping out. Giorgio came back and lended a hand for a little bit, and
then everybody at WTF, Kyle, the sound guy, all the guys.
Correct. Yeah. I genuinely can't tell you how hard it really is to put on a live show of that magnitude, that quickly, and for it to go off without a hitch. To my knowledge, I mean, where I was on all night, so I didn't get to see it, but there was no hiccups, internet didn't go out, sound, all that stuff. So congratulations to you guys, for real. That was an unbelievable job last night, and I want to give you guys Drinkin' Bro of the Week. It's tough, man, and you don't get to see it. It's not sexy. The saying in Hollywood is, hey, audience only gives a shit about what's going on on the screen, but it's what's behind the screen that you don't get to see that actually makes this shit happen. So thank you guys very much, man. You guys knocked it out of the park last night, and it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So
and then also Drinkin' Bro of the Week to Bob's Bull, who...
Oh, yeah, it's true.
If he's not at home taking care of Bob's wife and kids, then Bob isn't available to do any of this stuff. Right?
Absolutely.
So unsung hero.
Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way,
he's getting deported though.
Well,
you know,
it's going to happen.
He shouldn't have been here. You know what's really interesting? So Montana, Florida, Maryland, Arizona, Missouri, Nebraska, New York, Colorado, South Dakota, and Nevada, which we don't have data for yet. But all those other states also had abortion rights to some degree on a ballot measure or something, right?
Yep. Did they all get shot down?
No. I don't know which ones. Well, they didn't all pass. Florida didn't pass.
Because of the threshold.
Because it's 60%, but they had 57.1. Florida's fucked. They got to fix that.
Yep.
South Dakota is the only place where it didn't get it 50% or more. Kamala Harris lost relative to the abortion vote by 19.6 in Montana, where they did vote it in, by 14.2 points in Florida, by 14.1 points in Maryland, 13.6 in Arizona so far, 11.6 in Missouri, 8.5 in Nebraska, 6.8 in New York.
So
6.5 in Colorado.
Yeah,
those are two deeply blue areas.
I would
right
really love to see. I was actually
this is the most interesting crosstabs I've seen so far.
This is incredibly interesting. And one thing I can't find yet, maybe the data's not there, because I was looking for Missouri in particular, was just because she lost Missouri, obviously, but that passed was the how many men voted for it.
Yeah, I would like to see that too. So the final number in Missouri was 53.8 voted for the whatever it is, probably the 15-week thing, I would imagine.
Yeah.
And then 42.2% for Kamala herself.
And I saw the map.
This is not a losing issue for the Democrats. They just don't need to. It's the issue wins. You don't have to fucking use that. You know what I mean? Like the Republicans would have done a good job to ignore it entirely. Like I said 2 fucking years ago.
Yep.
Just ignore that shit. It's going to get fucking sorted out like it is right here. And then the left used that as to prop them up. Goddamn, dude. What a fucking huge mistake.
But the other part of it is, if you're in a loving relationship and you love your wife and you guys are friends, you do have that conversation. I know I had it with my wife. I was like, hey, what do you care about? Great. If abortion's on the ballot, I'll vote the way you want to vote, because not my body, it's yours. Like I'm good with it. So maybe that happened in this one. I don't know. I'm sure there'll be studies and analysis, for weeks and weeks to come. Obviously, this is the day after, but we appreciate you joining us here. We appreciate you joining us last night. We appreciate all the support on wefunder.com/hardafseltzer. All of it, man. You guys mean the world to us. It's awesome seeing you in person. There was about 1,000 people that rolled through in and out throughout the night last night. And again, cheers to these guys behind the scenes that you don't necessarily get to see all the time. Appreciate you joining us. For D'Anthony Hollaway, I'm Ross Patterson. This is the Drinkin' Bros Podcast.